Hi, welcome back to FutureFast. And like always, we've got a very special guest today, and that is Shri Lakshmi Desiraju. And I'll be addressing her as Shri with her permission, of course. And uh, for those of you who have come here for the first time to watch or listening to the FutureFast podcast, this is an effort to bring in people who are doing things which are bound to have some impact in the future, and also we talk to them about their businesses and how do they foresee future, and how are they preparing for it, how are they handling it, and the idea is that we could probably draw some pointers that could potentially help us in our own businesses or in our life as well. And apart from that, we also try to get them to do some bit of future gazing and even challenge them to make some predictions. May sound for fun today, but hopefully these things could also become some sense of North Pole for us as we go forward. And having said that, we'll jump right into the conversation. Shri, welcome to Future Path, and thank you so much for making time to be part of this conversation.
Absolutely a pleasure to be part of FutureFast and today's podcast. First for me, I think so, but definitely very interesting. I'm looking forward to having an interesting talk and making this very interesting for all the audience who are going to listen to this or are listening to.
Wonderful. So, Shri, can you please share your journey of starting as a researcher to an entrepreneur?
Sure. So my name is Dr. Shri Lakshmi, and I have been by training a chemist, and was born into a family of academicians. So studies were the bare basics I had to do. I couldn't say that I am a PhD or I'm a postdoc because that didn't mean anything in my household. As both my parents were professors and they both had PhD students under them, and they were helping shape careers and for others. So the minimum which was expected from me was to study, and so me going through my schooling and then college and then going into research was just it was just a normal way of living for me. I don't think I can take any pride in telling about it.
Rather, it was expected of you since your parents were. Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. It was just expected of me that this bare minimum you will do to keep the name of the family intact. And so one thing resulted out of this was I had decided quite early on that whatever come what may, I'm not getting into academics. Because if I do academics and if I become a professor, there's nothing new you have done. I mean, that again, the same thing. This is the bare thing you could have done. Your parents were professors, so you needed to be a professor. So, okay, fine, you followed their footsteps. Lucky enough, you got a job for yourself. And so that was what was deep inside me, that come what may, if anything else, I'm not getting into academics. Again, when after I finished my this one PhD, I ended up in academics. Actually, I got a government job in engineering college in my hometown, and I was teaching chemistry there. That was again in north, and coming from tier 2 cities, not too many opportunities were there actually in Nanjinda. And we would have whatever came in my way, I didn't let it go also. I joined that place, and in the first semester, at least I opened my books and used to read before I used to go and deliver lectures. But the second semester, I literally did not even open my books, and that kind of scared me really. That my life is so predictable that I don't open books. I just get up in the morning, do my morning rituals, go off to the college. I go and deliver a lecture, come back in the evening, and that's it. Nothing much beyond that. And this is not what went very good with me. So I applied for one of the competitions from Madhya Pradesh Council of Science and Technology called Young Scientist Award. And
which city was this you were in?
I came from Ujjain, Madhya
Jane.
Pradesh.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so right now it's too much in papers all over the place because Mahakaleshwar temple has become now very big, and the authorities, government authorities, have beautifully made it very beautiful actually. So, but then it is a university town, and so there was nothing except having a university. No businesses, nothing. It was a small place. So then I applied for this Madhya Pradesh Council of Science and Technology, and I applied for this particular competition. And that year, I did get the award. I won the competition, and I got the best researcher award. Now, the beauty of that award, and I must say, some of these things, when people decide and do, the policy makers do, they can actually change life of people. What they did was, the award was not just getting a certificate or amount or financial this one appreciation, but they said I could go to any part, any lab in India, government funded lab in India, and I could work there for 3 months. And the lodging, boarding, my research, every single thing, the government would pay for. It was only for 3 months, not more than that. But for 3 months, they wanted researcher to go and experience or take an exposure to what new things are out there, because MP was not known to be having too many things around. So some policymaker came up with this brilliant idea that if a person has won an award, they have a potential. Let us
Which
help
year
them.
was that?
This was in 1998. No, no,
That's
not
when
1997.
that's when it was introduced, is it, or it was there? This kind of a.
No, no, it was there. It was there.
Oh,
But
okay.
people did not take advantage of it because 3 months was nothing, right? By the time you go to
Correct.
a lab, understand, settle down, 3 months are over. Hey. So I don't think people took advantage of it. But as I said, tier two cities don't give you too many opportunities. So whatever you got, you picked it up. And I did
Right.
not let it go. So during that time, what I did was I applied for using that award. I applied in a place called National Chemical Laboratories in Pune, that is NCL. And I went there with just this 3 months award, what I had, giving my resignation in the engineering college. And when I did that, my mother literally, she climbed walls because she was like, "You are nuts. Who gives away a government job for 3 months ka some scholarship that you have won? Take 3 months for holidays and you go if you want, but don't give resignation." My logic was, unless I close that chapter, I will not be able to open the new one. And unless I'm afraid that I have given up a government job, I will not work towards it. And I had decided myself that I'm not coming back. I am going to stick to that NCL, come what may, what happens, I'm going to stick, because the very fact that every day the life was so predictable and there was nothing new happening was scaring the hell out of me actually.
I want to ask you something here, not about your career, about Ujjain. Uh, you spent considerable amount of time in Ujjain, early
Yes,
formative years.
yes.
See, it always, I always wondered about Ujjain at some point of time, right? Maybe I think even 1,000 years ago was regarded as the center of the earth from a point of measurement, right?
Yes,
So
yes,
what we call GMT today, Greenwich Meridian Time,
yes,
it was
yes,
it was until about 800 years or so, it was Ujjain.
yes.
And that is one. And second thing, what I was always finding it amazing is that Ujjain is quoted in so many stories. Looks like it's what 10,000 years old or 7,000 years old as a living city.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I did visit that Mahakaleshwar temple. I did a road trip a couple of years ago, and during COVID actually. So the
Okay.
roads were empty, and we just drove off. And I went there, and I was just trying to. I mean, of course, well before this whole read, and I believe it's done phenomenally well now. So I saw the older version.
Correct.
But what is your? I mean, were you ever in? Uh, did you ever feel anything about it? Because when I saw there, for people who were there, it was just a routine, right? It just didn't matter. But yeah, things were slow like any other small town.
Yes,
Uh, I mean, cost of living is like crazily low, right? I mean, I had breakfast along with friends for 15 rupees
yes,
and on the roadside, which was like
correct.
really good and filling. And also on the riverside, people are getting a haircut done. I mean, it was like uh, any small town.
Correct.
And those shops, people are trying to sell you something for 10 rupees more and things like it's a usual tourist thing I
Yes.
found. But
Yes.
I was trying to find something, or do people realize that this is 7,000 or 10,000 years of living city? Because see, we talk about, I'm from Bangalore, right? We talk about Bangalore being, some people were, all these years we were saying it's 400 years old because Kempegowda as the founder, and now they found some record saying there was 1,000 years ago there was a reference to Bengaluru. So it is 1,000 years history. But seriously, there is nothing to connect us to the 4,000 years of history except those stone carvings where there is a reference of thing being there, and maybe it was a small hamlet at best. But
Correct.
Ujjain was different.
Yes.
So
Ujjain,
what
yeah.
was it? I mean, did you ever have this kind of a thing? I mean, I'm just. Did you ever
Connected
think about it?
connect to the history, you mean, if you are saying
Yeah.
Ujjain has been the center of everything. In fact, when we say the Ugadi that we celebrated, we say Vikram Samvat 2080 has started, 2080 has started. We don't say 2023. If
Correct.
you have to go
Correct. That's a
mythological.
English or Roman calendar.
Yes. So if you had to go by Indian calendar, then Vikram Samvat to 2080 started. That Vikram part is from Ujjain.
That Vikramaditya.
Aditya, yeah. So from Ujjain, we have today also we have Sandipini Ashram where Sri Krishna and Sudama actually studied. We have enough of history there to say that the world knew, because Tropic of Cancer goes through it, the world knew that this is how the time has to be divided into different zones. They had their way of doing it. So
No,
like
but as a person living locally there, were you conscious of it, or is that something people talk about? Is that how you grow up with, or it's just another town you live in? It's just that.
it's no, it is just another town. The reason why people would respect it, because the Shivling, it is, there are only 12 Shivling, Jyotirlings all in the country. So the Shivling, that Mahakaleshwar Shivling, is the only Shivling which is south facing. It is nowhere in the world that you have a Shivling which is south facing. And if you are a real devotee, people have seen many miracles happening there. So Ujjain was considered as a hub, not just because of the city per se or the place that developed. It has a very deep history. No, commoner today doesn't relate to that. You have one another structure which is there. That is how it was. So it was very much required actually for them to revive this temple. For the only reason was that we needed to know that what is the history we come from.
No, but even then, that it's more referred to or regarded as a temple town rather than this historic consequential from a point of Tropic of Cancer going there, and it was the center of the world from a sense of time, right? Even for every movement of course, a lot of times people think there was no boats or ships, but they were earlier also, and they all their movements were also based on a small town in
Yes,
the heart of India. So,
correct.
but
But as much as we didn't growing up, we didn't realize it, and rightly said before we started this chat that how we are researching or re-knowing or acquainting ourselves with the history is what happened to Ujjain too.
so
Ujjain
is
did not,
that how you also reconnected to the place after you left, Ujjit?
to a large extent, yes. It's only when I started reading history after you finished all your education and you didn't have to worry about any marks is when you actually go back to history, because now you enjoy
And
it.
and unfortunately, our history books didn't mention much about these things, right? Right. So sorry, I was just curious since you mentioned Ujjain, because this has been something I was very excited about going to Ujjain because of this. I thought, am I going to experience some different uh, vibes or energy or things like that?
You
So
could. but you needed to know the places that you have to visit. Ujjain also, incidentally, was a hub of all the magic that was done, whether it was a black or a white or what kind of magics, we don't know. But there are places in Ujjain which are a hub of source of energy. So people go and do pujas there when they have to do for a typical problem that needs to be sorted out, and that whole city of the radius that it is 130 kilometers is supposedly to be actually a bundle of energies on a different spots. There are sections of the city where you can feel yourself something different than, and you would not be able to put a finger and say that what is it that is I'm feeling a little different here.
Oh, okay.
There is a
Interesting. So
there are
probably I'll have to
because of
plan
our
one more trip.
temples. Sorry.
Probably I'll have to plan one more trip to do that, figure that.
And when you do, please take some Ujjainkars with you, or you let me know, and I'll tell you whom, where, and which places to go. So there are hubs, there are spots in the city which are still not explainable. But yes, I must say that that city has a lot of history which needs to be connected to the common man. Growing up,
I,
no.
I think some of the audience who are listening to this or watching would be finding it very awkward that, okay, I said you're a scientist, and the scientist talking about not explainable and energy. So it's
I
interesting, but
agree with you. And as much as I'm a scientist, and as much as I don't want to believe in any of these things, because if I'm a science person or science, I'm using my day-to-day life, I try to first understand things before I can talk about it. There are some places in Ujjain which are not explainable. I have not been able to find it. So I have accepted them the way that are. But that being said, going in more into this conversation, you will understand why I say so, because a lot of this knowledge got lost with the people who went away, and we could not document them properly. So even the area that I work on right now called probiotics is something which suddenly has taken up a lot of space in the medical world or in the health sciences, and especially in the research. So many things my Ajji used to tell me, so many things my grandmother used to tell me to do, but I would not make head and tail out of it as to why they would say to do something like that. A simple thing for south of India, if I can just take a minute of yours and tell, we always ate our food on banana leaves, right? Did we even know what why they were told to eat on banana leaves? Because actually now we have figured out, the researchers have figured out that banana leaves is packed with polyphenols. So when hot rice is served on banana leaves with all those spices and everything, and polyphenols are nothing but antioxidants which will not let you have cancer. These were the ones which were actually anti-cancer, protective for you. Morning, afternoon, evening, dinner, if you were eating on banana leaves, you didn't have to take any antioxidants separately. All you had to do was those leaves had enough polyphenols which were going into your body and which was protecting your body from any of the free radical or any of the cancer substances. This is one small thing I'm saying. Ujjain is much bigger than
but
this.
probably those days, for many generations, it was done more as a custom or part of a culture. At least, see, I've seen these things done mostly in the festival times, not on a regular basis, right? Regularly, it was more of eating place, but at least during festival times, you eat.
True. And even when, I don't know, but like in my household, in my mother's household, my dad's household, and I come from Andhra, as I said. So in Andhra, we every single meal was on banana. One, it was easy because all you had to do is fold it and throw it off. And the cow could eat it. And so that was also digestible and it was nothing was waste. Second thing was you didn't have to go and do that extra chore of cleaning up the utensils or the plates or whatnot. A big family gathering used to be there. So all I'm trying to say is similarly, there are so many of these things which today we don't understand or we cannot rationalize it. But there was a reason why people told us to do some things or the things which were important. And the best way was, how do you tell people that there are polyphenols which are good for your health? It was easy to say that this is how the religion is and this is how we grew up. So
Right. This is
everything was
custom,
made
this
into
is
really
tradition, you should do it.
that's all. So we do nobody questions it. If my grandmother says it has to be done, it has to be done. Nobody questions her. Why this? Why not that? And there were very few who questioned, I believe. So, some of these things we just took as is. And I'm saying in the context is there are lots of these things which even at that place that we were talking about, or Jen that we are talking about, they are unexplained at this point. But slowly as we go forward, I'm very sure we will have the quantum physics and the quantum theory also being proved out there, because they must have thought about it, they knew about it, they just didn't know how to document it, or they didn't know the scientific explanation to it. More so, people at that time did not even accepted it.
Oh, yeah, possibly. Yes, perhaps should try to get some Indologist and talk about it. Right. So what happened after the 3 months?
So after I finished my education here, I went off to NCL. After NCL, I got married, and the NCL Pune was neither near to Jen nor near to Mysore. That's where the family came from, in-laws family. And so I shifted to Bangalore. In IISc. I was working on peptide nucleic acids in NCL Pune, and similar kind of work was also being done in IISc Bangalore. And I shifted my research to this place. And 2 years I worked there for a postdoc, and then after my publications, that was the same time when I had applied for immigration to Canada. Because both of us were in two different domains. Aditya was in oil and gas domain, and I was in sciences domain. So we were actually literally and he was working in the Middle East. Middle East would not offer me any great career options, and so we applied for our immigration, and we went off to Canada, because we got immigration coming in from Canada much faster than any other countries. And Canada offered both sciences as well as oil and gas. Um, I was right time, right place, I think so. Pfizer, on Pfizer projects, there was a local company called NAJA, NAJA, and they were hiring for Pfizer projects as a CRO. And I got selected there very early on, actually, hardly 4 days in Canada, and I got my job. So that was one big breakthrough. And as a scientist, I was working with Pfizer on their projects of cardiovascular division, and life started. Once I did that, and as I say, I become very restless if I don't have that next big goal. After a few years, I started complaining that I am not growing anywhere, because in that area where I was, there were only oil and gas companies. There were not many pharma companies. Pharma companies was more towards the east side of Canada rather than west. So that is where, or Vancouver had a little bit, but not too many at that point. So at that point, when I was cribbing and worrying as to I'm not growing up, again, my life is predictable. Again, I knew that, the how the day would go on. I think I jumped into something different, and that was I did my MBA course there. Now, the idea was very funny. When I went to the university and I said I would like to do an MBA, they saw my initial degrees and they said, you are already in doctorate. Why would you want to do another? And there, people, when you say you are a doctorate, when you're a product, when you're a scientist, when you are a postdoc, there is a different level of respect. And I said, I want to do MBA. And they were like, why would you want to do a lower degree? My logic was, it's not about lower degree, it's about upskilling myself so that I can do something different. And this was funny enough, because I didn't know what I was doing there. I wouldn't become an HR person.
You didn't think of becoming an entrepreneur yet?
No, nowhere near. I was just frustrated because my life was predictable. That was all it was actually at that point, Nanjanda. I did not really look into anything else. And then, but University of Alberta Business School offered beautiful specializations, and they did have the standard ones, the HR and the international business and the finance and all those things. But with the background that I had come, these were of no good to me, these specializations. So I was looking for different specialization, and they had one specialization called technology commercialization. I think that really resonated with me, and I'm telling you my like how that Madhya Pradesh Council of Science and Technology, my first award changed my life. This again was another step over, and this place when we had I went and looked into that specialization. It made me understand simple. I can speak science. I can understand science. I'm a chemist. I might not understand biology, or I might not understand gene splicing or genetic engineering, but I have enough knowledge to at least figure out the basics, and later on go to some subject expert and understand it. Okay, connect the dots. And to that, I could take and convert it into a commercializable technology or a product. There is where we can see more and more application of that particular thing. So this I understood clearly. I said, yes, this is what I would like to do. And 2 years full time, I went into the school, business school, and did my MBA there. I think that is where I just, it's typical MBA paradigm. The moment you do MBA, you think you are the next big Ambani or Adani. It's only when you try to sell the 5 rupee ka chai on the road, you understand that boss, nothing works. All those knowledge, what you have gathered has no meaning. It might actually get you a first job, but after that you have to rework your life altogether. So that allowed me, and that was the time when actually parents were growing. Especially one of the parent had been detected of Parkinson. So we didn't have much choices but to sit there and worry about them. It was easy. It was not the choice that we wanted, because door to door, it was 31 hours of flight time. And if something was serious here, there was no way we reached in time. That made that made me take a decision of coming back to India. That as long as they are there, we need to be around. It was not for any financial reasons they wanted us to be around, but physical. Because all the set of parents, whether my set of parents or this side, everybody here, they both were scientists. There, they both were professors. They both are professors. I mean, so no, everybody was financially well off, and they had done typical middle class families. Everybody took care of their future needs and everything. But physical presence does make a difference, is what we realized, and that brought us back to India. When we came back to India, the other thing was to go and join one of the big wigs, the Biocons of the world, or the Anthems, or any of those things. Instead of that, and work for 18 hours a day, or 10 hours a day, or 8 hours a day also. But that instead of that, I just took a shot on this, saying that if we can develop what we are trying to do, maybe we will have our own, and we will be in a position to get give jobs rather than looking for jobs. And I think that is where this whole entrepreneurship thing started for me. I don't think I was born an entrepreneur. I don't think I was trained an entrepreneur. It is just over a simple decision that let us do ourselves and see if we can do it.
Wonderful. So, what is it that you're doing now that you think will help you do well in future?
So I started this company called Triphase Pharmaceutical in 2009. Okay, November 2009 is when I landed in India, and that's when I started. And typical middle class family, risk averse. I said I'm going to bring jobs from, because I was in the CRO industry, I'll bring jobs from North America, get it done here, because India was the hub of all the contract research which was happening in pharmaceutical. So I said, okay, I'll bring the jobs from there and I'll get it done here. I'll send it back and I'll be as a consultant and I'll earn my money, and that's good enough. Okay. That was the whole idea of starting this thing. And very early on, I realized the biocons were actually interested in talking to me. And the established pharma companies were talking to me because they thought I would get projects from North America and Europe, and we could do it together. In fact, some of the projects we did it together with big ones, not with Biocon though. But yes, every single person was entertaining me, as novice as I was in 2009 November as a businesswoman. And I'm like, okay, so if these people are taking care of me and if these people are giving me respect, I must be doing something better. And I started my journey on that road actually. But in a year, I could figure out that as much as I'm looking forward to establishing Triphase as a brand in this thing, I think I'm late in the game. If a company of 400 crores also is talking to novices like me, obviously they're just above the water. Their heads are just above the water. And one great understanding also I came to me was an agenda that cost cannot be an arbitration of doing business.
At least not for long.
Yeah. So it's not an arbitration of doing a sustainable business. Let me correct myself. So, and this
It is
gap,
perhaps for some time, but not
correct,
in the
not
long
a
run.
sustainable business. And this GAN did not come up from my pharma thing that I was doing. This was more from the perspective of BPOs, which had shifted their bases to class tier 2 cities and tier 3 cities. And I said, oh, so tomorrow if somebody in a small corner is able to do it, I will not be able to get at the cost that I'm thinking I will. And it so happened within a year or two of that time, 2009, say 2012, between that, there was a big paradigm shift because now suddenly the job works were going to Russia, to Belgium, to Brazil, and all the places where the cost was still low. So India started losing those businesses because, as I said, cost became, whoever was ready to pay less or do the job at a lesser cost, these businesses were going down.
This was also because we didn't have good quality resource, right? It was just not the cost, at least in the CRO space.
Not the human resource. Human resource, we have been having a very good resource. It is the other infrastructure that is
Technical
required.
infrastructure, right.
The infrastructure that we require to do, and especially in the pharmaceutical or health sciences.
See, what I had heard is that human resource, perhaps the people with capability was there, but they had academic knowledge. They didn't have technical knowledge because they didn't work with good equipment.
Yes.
They were not taught with good equipment. So that was the biggest gap. Though, are they capable? They were capable, but they just didn't have that right facilities to do things better. So that was the biggest giveaway from that.
Very true. But even when the big ones, the biggies had put together a good infrastructure, a big infrastructure, then it came with that extra cost or extra, overheads, which could not be adopted because now you found another place which was giving. I'm telling you, at one point in 2012-13, I had I had the scare of my life. This guy, because I used to look at different places where I could go and work and get my projects done. I was still not 13, I think, so it was in 11. And this guy, he suggested that I come and see his lab, and I'm like, okay, fine. I would love to come back to your lab and see, and meet people before I can even give you a small project to be done. The gentleman is actually taking me into a residential area in Hyderabad. And I'm like, I don't want to visit your family right now. I want to visit the lab. And he says, yes, ma'am, we are going to visit the lab. Right in the center of that building, there was actually a chemistry lab. I'm like, how do you do chemistry?
Do they get permissions to do those things?
So that's what exactly I said. So the infrastructure was something, the regulatory authorities were something they did not know at that point, that people have opened labs in between apartment complex.
Oh, and so they had no licenses or permission?
No licenses, nothing, anybody and everybody. And that's why they could quote at a lesser cost. And so this became actually a life-threatening hazard. And I literally had a scare of my life that day when I asked him, where do you pour the solvents, madam? In the drain. And I'm like, what? The organic solvents are going in the drain and nobody is questioning you? No, madam.
Nobody knows what they're doing.
The bedrooms were changed into offices, and the kitchen with a small chimney was their fume hood. Why? I ran for my life. Literally, I ran for my life. I said, I don't know. I have seen you and I don't want to talk to you. There is no way I can work with you. So these were the kind of people with whom you had to compete for the cost. And
how did you adapt, starting as an academician and then a researcher And then was this MBA that kind of helped you with this thing, or it was just intuitively you going about with every different function?
No, I mean, as a researcher, definitely. And fortunately, I had worked in Canada. So, I knew the best of the best policies and the work culture and the regulatories. And
No, but this CRO role was pretty much a business role, right? Business function
yes,
about even evaluating a vendor, negotiating with them, or even
yes,
to be aware of a complaint from a business perspective, right? As a
yes.
researcher, I think all these things are taken care of. Somebody else handles those.
Yes, yes. So this was a new learning. Those first 2, 3 years were a new learning for me altogether. So I was just meeting people. I was networking a lot, meeting people a lot, talking to them a lot, and they knew that she has projects. So they were also entertaining enough. I think so. That is how my learnings kept going on for those 2, 3 years. And when I literally came out and I said, I'm sorry, I cannot, I don't know you. You are working in an apartment complex like this. I have not seen it. I don't know you literally. And after that, I made it a point that even before I went to any of the vendors for getting any of the jobs done, I would ask them to send me actually pictures so that I know where am I going and what am I looking at. Because it's a waste of time also. It's a waste of time, waste of efforts.
Correct.
Um, Second thing, this was one part of it. But the second thing which actually made me change my routine altogether was, or change my business understanding was, I had done, and this was, see, so the first one was from the vendor side, the second one was from the client side. I had worked for a company and I had given them, actually, I was able to supply them 30 tons of material, 5 tons in 6 months. So 5 tons every month of that API we call active pharmaceutical ingredient was to be sent to US. And every month on month, so first 2 months it was a little difficult to match the timelines, but third month and fourth month, fifth month, sixth month, I went very breeze because once the reactions
So
got
this
set,
is parallelly you got into manufacturing, or you would get it
no, no, I never got
outsourced?
into it.
You
Outsourced.
outsourced it.
Yeah, yeah. So all these first 3 years, everything was outsourced. There was no way that I was getting into any of those things. I didn't even have a lab. It's only I was bringing in jobs and trying to get the work done. And then sending it back to the clients and whatever the in between you can call consultant fees or middleman fees or whatever you can call it, give as much.
So you also, so from scientist to now a trader.
Very good. Actually, it was trading only. Actually, that is true. That's what I say. So whatever you can call that, the money I was making, and I'll tell you how we became scientists again. So that was what was coming in and going off, and I was doing. From the client side, I had supplied, as I said, 30 tons of material. For me, it was big. It was big because I thought that, without any lab, if I can get it managed through third party, outsource it, a job work, done it, supply it, like they accepting it and actually paying the money, and I paid back the client, the vendor, and after me paying back the vendor, I made my whatever percentage was there. So I thought it was a good thing, no risk. The guy is making, the fellow is buying it, I'm making it between karke. I was okay with it. The very second, in service industry, you have to understand, Nanjuda, and I'm sure you will agree with me. If you are out of sight, you are out of mind. So you have to be there telling continuously that you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, you know. And so when the next query came, I bid for that also. And this first one, this 30 ton of material was $70,000. It was huge money. And the second one was hardly $5,000. So I bid for that, but I lost it. And when I went back to them and I said, come on, give me a break. And it was few milligrams or grams I had to send. And I said, come on, give me a break. I just supplied you 30 tons of material. I think I can do this job also. And why aren't you giving it to me? And they said, your shipping cost is $125 more than that of the bidder who won it, who got the project. And that was somewhere, I will say it was, below the belt. I did not take it nicely. I realized it very quickly. Neither I am a scientist for them, neither I am a businesswoman for them, neither I am anything of respect for them. I'm just a vendor which is giving at a lower cost. So for me, for somebody to replace me, it's a very easy job.
Very, yeah.
And that is when I realized I cannot make Triphase as a brand. There's no way I can make Triphase as a brand because there will be some other person who will take over me. And again, I'll be struggling like this every single time, going back and forth. Very early on in my business journey or entrepreneurial journey, I must accept, I did one good thing, and that was to find mentors. Mentors are not the people who bring business to you. Mentors are the people who will tell you what not to do. They will also not tell you what to do. They will just tell you whether this is a small puddle of water or a deep well. That's all they will tell you. And I realized that that idea, that amount of information from them was very good actually to, So I would say that there were mentors who actually carved the path for me. All they said was, don't do this. That means it was not to be done. After a few years, sometimes you could connect the dots and say that's why they said like that.
It's like, what's the good strategy? Good strategy is not just about what to do, it's more about what not to do.
So you save your time there.
So,
And this person, I was meeting him, and this just that 5,000 wala incident had happened, and my face was sulking around. So he asked me, "What's wrong with you now? You are earning good money. You are established yourself 4 years in the row. You don't even have a lab, and you are earning money. What's your problem now?" I said, "Well, I'm not happy. I'm not happy," and I told him about this incident. He said, "Shri, just tell me what tickles you." I said, "What do you mean by what tickles me?" He says, "No, what is it that will make you happy?" And I said, "Well, if I'm standing on a chemist shop and if somebody is buying my product, that will make me happy." So he said, "Then you are in a wrong field. You are definitely in a wrong field. You should be into a product company." Now, talking about products in pharmaceutical is a very, very, pardon my language, but it's a very, very sexy game. You just can think that you will solve the world's problem. You need $1.8 billion and 18 years of hard work, which neither one of them I had it with me, to be truthful to you. So I said, "You are talking nonsense. Such big companies are not able to do, and you're telling me I should be in the product." He says, "You are not a service person." And that advice I have never forgotten, Nanjuta, that he said that extra $50 that as a profit you are getting out from your projects will not allow you to get into products. So all he said was, stop this service that you are doing. You're not going to be happy. 10 years down the line also, we both will be talking the same. And believe me, that was the turning point again in my life.
so who are these people who have influenced you in making you the way you are?
So this gentleman or these mentors were all from pharmaceutical domain. They themselves were running the CRO companies. He used to be the CEO of Syngene, that is Biocom's CRO arm. And this gentleman, Dr. Gautam Das, actually had a coffee with me, and he gave me this great advice, which actually changed the face of Triphase. Otherwise, I would have been even today talking to you, okay, I'm doing only the contract research or doing something like that. Because that's what I knew. My experience was only in that field. And so I went back to him again. I said, "You talk all these great things, but do you know you will require it?" And I'm telling him, who has actually lived through that whole thing, or who must have eaten and slept and even breathed only what R&D and what a pharmaceutical company does. So he said, if you want, you take into the don't get into high-end research of pharmaceutical, but try to see if you can get into something which is similar to that, and it will satisfy your craving of doing research, but at the same time it will not be that expensive. Probiotics was one such area which was coming up in 2008 and 9 when I left North America. So I was intrigued by the research and the clinical studies that were coming out.
Incidentally, Biocon is getting into nutraceuticals now, right?
Yes.
They're working on
How they are into that. Yes. Yeah. But the gentleman, he left after some time, after 2-3 years, I think in 13-14 or 14-15, he left.
Yeah, that division itself got sold.
Yes, absolutely.
But Biocon now is into nutraceuticals.
Yes, because it is a $1.3 trillion market that we are looking at right now. Especially post-COVID, it is a very big market. So 29 they are assuming, but I think it will reach, you will reach in this 1.3 trillion or 1.5 trillion even before that. When 27 or 26 also we can reach. But suddenly everybody is not talking about proactive health. Nobody wants to get sick and get cured. Now everybody is wanting to be healthy enough so that we don't have to get. So COVID did one good thing, that people suddenly realized that yeah, health is something that they need to take care of. And so this is when I shifted my gears into product. And when I shifted my gears into product, I was fortunate enough to have, not fortunate, maybe time and again, right place, right time, right people. I had the core team which had worked very extensively in probiotics. And we identified that the market pain of probiotics was, and probiotics is nothing but as simple as masru for us. And the market pain of it was
curds, dahi for the
curds,
audience.
curds, yogurts, whatever you can say.
Yogurt, whatever.
Yeah, and the market pain of probiotic then was that if you left the curd or yogurt or any of those things on the table or any fermented food in the table, it goes bad in less than 12 hours. You know, so but the same thing, you leave it in the fridge, you still have it for 7 days. Yeah. So that is where we realized that 2 to 8 degrees of the fridge temperature was good for them, but even room temperature was not. So we started working in this area with two things very clearly in our mind, that we will not encapsulate, means we will not put any cover on these probiotics in this bacteria, because and I'll tell you why we would not do that. Because if you do encapsulation of the bacteria or the virus or any of these species, there is a process added, and that process has to open up in your stomach without creating any more nuisance, and then let the bacteria or virus do their job when they go inside. And second thing was that we will not genetically modify it, because once you genetically modify it, then you don't know what you are getting into actually. So these were the two things, and we started working. Can we make these bacteria, which are good for your health, temperature stable? Why would we do that? The reason was most of the population, at least in North America and Europe, were lactose intolerant. They cannot digest milk and milk or dairy products. So we needed some, and these people required probiotics more than any one of us. So that was the reason we said, okay, we have to make it in a format, whether food format or capsule, dietary supplement, or even prescription format. We have to make it in a format that we will not use dairy as a medium for dispersing the probiotics. Now, if we had to do that, then we had to make them temperature stable. And 2011, we started, we put together a lab here in Mysore. And then we started working in it. And
how did the team come about?
Okay, so there were 3 or 4 people who were a part of the core team. I was one of them, and there were 3 more people who were ex-Biocon, ex-SAMI Labs or Sabinsa Labs, and ex-Anthem, and not Anthem. Yeah, even that lady had come. She was given a job there, but she quit and she came with us. So we 4 of us, we took this thing that okay, the research problem which was defined as that these bacteria have to be made temperature stable. That's all.
No, but how did this come about? You 4 of you, so it just happened randomly?
This was in
or you went about picking or trying to?
No. I didn't go about picking. We were a part of a conference and we had met there, and we were talking about bacteria and how what were the market pains of those bacteria. And I was the only entrepreneur there. They were all working for some company as scientists. So we sat together.
It looks like your complete journey is so serendipitous, right? But there is so much of sequence of serendipity that kept driving you, navigating you through finding people.
And again, the only thing which I contributed in this whole journey was that I become restless if I don't have a goal. That is all I have contributed to, because that restlessness makes me look around for anything and everything, and puts me into an active stage to the level that I myself am surprised with. I just cannot imagine or believe that this is the same Shri who was in Ujjain doing her studies few years back to what it has become today. I go around.
So this whole of this restlessness, what you're attributing to is essentially being more curious
Yes.
to something more meaningful.
Not, yes, I mean, absolutely right. Being curious to find the new things. So once the goal is achieved, going to Canada was a goal achieved. Materialistic things required, that was the goal achieved. Building houses, buying the best of the cars, achieved. Go and see the world, achieved. And then what? And I come from a household which takes pride in being happy in what they are. So my mom always used to say, think about your classmates who have not been able to do things what you have already done. And I'm like, why would I think about it? Why wouldn't I compare myself with somebody who is even better than me? And why not learn from them? It's not about going and chasing
So
goals.
you are that abnormal. Why can't you be just normal like anybody else? And
Actually, yes. So even when I was
Shri, I must point this out that almost everybody that I have conversation with in this podcast are invariably belong to that being abnormal.
I think that makes you do things abnormally also.
Right.
Otherwise, typically, if I would have to see, I should have been in either Ujjain doing that engineering job as a professor.
Teaching.
I take
Yeah.
pride in it and be aramse with that thing. Or otherwise, I should have been happy with whatever I got in Canada and just be happy and, galore it and just sit there. So that doesn't, once it is done, I am not a happy person. I mean, like, acha, take next what? Next, if there is nothing which is making you think, which is making you experiment with yourself, making you put in that uncomfortable position or get out of your comfort zone. I think so. That is what makes me keep finding new areas to explore. And that is what allows me also. And God has been kind to me. I must say that. If I want to do something, He makes the whole, literally that बॉलीवुड मूवीज डायलॉग कि अगर आपकी बहुत अच्छी इच्छा हो तो कायनात आपके साथ चलती है दैट वाज ऑन अ वेरी डिफरेंट टर्म बट फॉर मी इट हैज ऑलवेज बीन on my goals and
or even that book Secret, right?
absolutely,
Fun.
absolutely. You feel it so deep and so much that you will find ways of getting it done. I have figured this out in throughout my journey as a professional or even on a personal note. If I want it, I start dreaming about it. I don't need any great motivation. I'm self-motivator only, and I'll find a reason to do it, and I'll learn from it. And the more I think so,
So, is there something you could give as a tip for our listeners or audiences how to make it happen for you?
So, most important is to be flexible. I started my business in Bangalore. And when I realized that I'm going to be into a product company, I realized because I had only this much money which was there with me to play around with. And that was the working capital in Bangalore was here, the working capital of Mysore, I'll say the other way. The working capital of Mysore with 20 people or 35 people was paying only my electricity bill and the rent in Bangalore.
Wow.
There is no way I could have done any research. We had only so much of money. And pharmaceutical is a capital intensive industry. So you can't expect that somebody will just pour money. This is not an industry where people want to take risk. Even today, after COVID, we don't find investors coming in so easily. So let alone that at that time, I am trying to say, I have just come back from Canada. I'm trying to do CRO jobs, but also I want to make products. And so I need money. And so somebody give me money. Nobody would entertain. It's as simple as that. So this, when we started it, I realized it, and that flexibility to move to Mysore, not just move, and throughout this journey.
So essentially, what you're saying is be flexible, but what you're trying to say is that be very pragmatic with your context and situation.
True, very true. And if anything, I take pride in this whole journey is that first time I could motivate those three people along with me to move to Mysore, not just move to Mysore. They moved their baggages, their children, their wives, their jobs, wives' jobs, everything. Only because I had a dream that I want to do something different. I think that I take pride in. Today, we might have end up becoming so many a successful company or not a company.
That's the biggest starting point, right? For any entrepreneurs to first get your co-founders convinced, and
Correct.
next get your employees convinced,
Correct.
and next get some investors to convince or customers, depending on where people look at it. Either you convince your customer, then. So, core of founding a company is about getting people to be
Believe.
convinced about your vision and dream. And
Correct. And I think I take pride only in that. I'm just the face. All the hard work was done by them, and the team really worked well with us. So initially, there were times when things did not work for us. Obviously, from 2011 to 2016, things didn't work for us. 16 is when we had the eureka moment and we turned the first bacteria to be temperature stable. But until then, we didn't. So, there was a long journey from 2011 till 2018 is when we got our first patent. More so, you are sitting in a capital intensive industry, which is a high risk industry. I mean, it's all nice to talk about now, but if I go back and remember those days, even now tears trickle. So blood, sweat, tears, what really they mean, I have seen all of this. The first time I went to, obviously, when I had to put up a lab, I went to the bank and I said, I want to put up a lab. And they looked at me, you lost it or what? I mean, you have to put up a lab, put your money. We are not giving you anything. 2011, the first time MSME had put something called CGT MSc scheme, and in which you could borrow 1 crore, up to 1 crore without collateral. As much as today all the startup India and stand up India and skill India and this India and that India and a whole bunch of entrepreneurship is being promoted, 2011 nothing of this sort was existing.
correct.
That to let alone and come back, people go from tier 2 to tier 1 city. I actually moved back from tier 1 to tier 2 city. So the journey was going ulta. I came from Canada to tier 1 city and now from tier 1 to tier 2 city. And obviously, when I went to the bank, because see, when for us, and nothing wrong with it is just the industry that it works in that way. In the IT industry, 3 people, 4 computers, you want to find out what the next door neighbor is cooking in their house becomes $1 billion. They rake billions and they have investments coming in. But for us, it was not like that. We had to first invest to put up a lab, even to dream. And that was coming to 1 crore. So, when I said that I want to do this, the bankers were literally at their best laugh. Madam, okay, what are you giving as a collateral? I said, nothing. Where is your husband in this journey? I said, he's not there. He's sitting in Canada. Where's your father-in-law? I said, he's a retired scientist. Where's your father? He's a retired academician. Brother, he's a naval officer. So he said, who's going to stand with you? I said, I'm going to stand with myself. They all don't even know what I'm doing. It was very difficult to tell them that I'm a genuine person and you need to trust me and give me the setup of my lab. Today I can laugh at it, but those days were the days. October 2011, I think so, I started approaching the bank. And it was only every 10 days I used to go and sit in the bank to meet the AGM and the GM and the DGM and whoever I could meet on. And it's only in March that my loan got approved. So if anything else, perseverance has been there from day one.
So 6 months.
So flexibility was first, second one was perseverance. Good day, bad day, ugly day, I stand up and I'm there.
So essentially, there is no magic that happens. You just have to be pragmatic and believe in yourself, stay put on it, and keep chasing it.
Keep chasing. And that made me use my all faculties of brain. Believe me, until 2016, I was still doing the CRO job. I was doing because the bank gave you money, you have to pay them every month, first of every month. Otherwise, you will get into NPA. That becomes another problem. So I was doing trading. I was doing CRO jobs. At one point today, I will accept. I've never said this in any of my interviews. At one point, I spoke to my dad and told him that, he has some agriculture land. So I told him that next 2-3 years, I'm going to export your rice. We grow paddy there. And so I'll aggregate paddy from the whole town. I'll take it and I'm going to export it. And whatever price you guys get it, I will give it to you. But at the same time, whatever that extra I make is for my company. And my dad, he looked at me thinking that I'm really on the breakdown mode. And he said, I'll give you money. I'll sell the land and give you money if that is what you require and you are under so much of pressure. I said, I don't need money. It's not about money. It's about me trying to see whether this thing can be done to pay the dues back to the bank. And believe me, I did that. And the farmers actually stood up with me because they were getting a little more than what the government was offering them then, and we exported some of our rice and we aggregated and we exported it out. So that 2-3 things happened. One was that you took upon yourself to come up with innovative ways of doing things. Okay. Second thing was you also explored your own skills, which otherwise the negotiating skills I didn't know I had. When talking to a farmer and getting him to sell the rice for that paddy for that particular price was quite a different job than doing research in a lab and trying to make the bacteria's temperature stable. So different things I did at that point, and I think all of those make you a person very humble because you realize what is the problem that the world is facing. You are not in some cocoon or shell trying to do only one type of thing. I think I interacted with people more that time than what I have interacted with. And that is how this journey shapes you as a person also. And I have been extremely lucky to get things in the right time at right. I must accept that things happened. If they were not to happen, I think this journey would have broken down, or I would have changed me also. That I would have become even more risk averse. Now I don't worry about risk. Now I'm able to go ahead and if there is a problem, in fact, I'm happy because then I'm thinking, and if I'm thinking, I'll find one solution for the problem. Whether it was or not, I don't know, but I'll find one solution for the problem.
So, Shri, what kind of books, podcasts do you read, follow?
Anything. Now, though, of course, life has given me enough chances to find out different areas. But earlier on, at least for 8 or 10 years, it was just related to business, whether it was related to sales, whether it was related to strategies, whether it was related to. And I have been a very big fan of Elon Musk. I mean, he becomes popular now, but I have been following him for the longest time. Steve Jobs, these people have really, really kind of made me say that if they can do it, hum bhi kar hi sakte hain. Maybe, we will not go to that level, but at least somewhere we will be there. So if anything else, money has never been a driving point for me, but definitely making strategies and getting it executed to see the outcome, positive outcome is what drives me. So anything related to that, you can catch me on that.
Anything you want to recommend to our listeners or audience about what kind of books or podcasts that you...
Don't go by just the big names. I have found another thing, and I'll tell you why. I have read, and this was some psych, literally, because everybody thought that I don't know why I do this, but I have learned more from the failed businesses than the businesses which have been successful. People who have failed. So there used to be this company in 2016-17 called housing.com, and they blew off Sequoia's 100 crores in billboards. And I have met that person actually in person. I have met him only for one reason, that I wanted to know what did he think when he was doing. He was a young guy, a brash guy, which tried to do things the way he thought was the best way to do it, and more so I think so somewhere
Yeah, I forgot his name too. He started something else. He raised money
yes,
for that,
and it did not go well with the. So 2-3 things came out of that experience when I spoke to him. One, invested money is not free money. This was a
no
very
money, No
No
money
money
is
is
free, but people
free.
like to think otherwise.
And second big thing which I thought was, which came to my mind, had that fellow started with a debt from the bank, he would have been more financially disciplined. He would not have gone and blown off those things. So, more and more you learn from failed businesses. You don't have to do all the mistakes to learn things. Though we do learn from our own mistakes. But you don't have to make 100 mistakes to learn from yourself. Uh, so, one such thing which I even do now, if I can find anywhere anything written about the businesses which have not gone, which have actually gone fud actually. So, Alibaba is another case study. The gentleman has 11 years of not able to get into Harvard and still stand up and say, I can do it. He has so many businesses which have failed and still stand up and say, this is something that I will do it and become what I have become. So I think failed businesses, they teach you more if you want to learn. If you want to learn everything from your own mistakes, then there are lots of other things. So my advice is look out for those businesses which did not work and why they did not work. Even though the promoters or the proprietors of those businesses were some people who were very highly established people. One such gentleman is, from the Bollywood industry, Dhawan, Varun Dhawan's father, actually. I failed to get his
Anil
name.
Dhawan.
He was one such. As when he was making movies, he became very
Oh,
rich.
no,
So
he's David Dhawan. Anil Dhawan
David,
is his uncle, that
yes,
actor. Yeah.
and so many big businesses, so many big and beautiful movies he made, and he made big money. He started a academy to train people to do to learn the acting, and that was literally, put him back on ground zero, where he started his life. It's okay. I mean, the son is doing good, and that's why everything seems to be good. But all I'm saying it is these are the people. There are actually books where they have only written about case studies about the businesses which did not. And you learn a lot from them rather than the ones which are glorified, successful businesses. That will not give you the real stories. There will always be a cover up for some of the things that they did and that did not work, because
Interesting.
generally people
So,
tend to not
so
say about.
do try to share some links if you have any to share it with our audience.
So when I did things I for my own things.
Or you
I,
say just Google about the failed stories, and there should be somebody publishing it.
yeah, actually, that there are so many of those incidences, even from my own life that went wrong, and even from others' life that I keep learning from. Not everything works. Not everything uh, moves the way you want it to move. But the overall summary of it is just put blinkers. Just put blinkers. Otherwise, you will not go anywhere. And just take that as a first goal to achieve. Then the next, because thinking that you will become a
No,
10,000
but Shri, I think, see, as much as there is a reality to it from a point of put blinkers and stay focused at what you want to do, but the reality is like how you did it, right? While you were trying to do that, perhaps with blinkers, but it is a transparent blinker where you kept doing other things to keep paying for it because it took you almost 6, 7 years to do that. So I think any bootstrapped entrepreneur, that is the reality. We can't literally work with blinkers on because we need to do things which pays for it so that we, keep hustling. So maybe it's a transparent blinkers while you continue to hustle.
Why I say blinkers is there are many reasons for you to get
Lost.
disassociated with the
Right,
goal.
right. Yeah. While you stay focused at what you want to achieve,
Correct. So
keep
that
doing
was
to.
the reason I use the word term blinkers, because it is very easy for you to get diverted into some things and leave the main reason why you went into it.
Correct,
So as
correct.
much as
And
I
it
can.
happens. It happens with so many startups, so many founders.
Yes. So as much as I was willing to look through those transparent blinkers to make things happen, but the core objective was one, that take this bacteria and make it into temperature stable. That's all I want.
Right. Well, whatever you're doing, it is all you didn't lose the focus of this is where you want to be heading.
True. So that is something that one needs to keep very intact. This is what I have thought. I have defined the problem. I see a reason why I'm doing it. Yes, there are 50 things that I need to do so that this problem moves from point A to B to C to D to E, which is my final goal. But for me to move that, I will hustle with the other things around so that I provide enough of nutrient that this problem keeps moving in the solving state. But I did not allow these boys to go and try to do something else.
So don't get lost in the hustle. Keep moving forward to the goal.
Not at all. So many people came and said, Madam, internships, you can do it. And colleges, they were literally thriving out after 2-3 years. Madam, I will send interns with you. You can charge us for amount. Me charging them an amount would definitely derail the boys who are doing their research. Because I'm not going to tell them what to do. I took interns. I didn't say I'm not taken interns, but very limited amount, only 4. So people had to literally compete to come to Triphase to be interns. And that allowed these boys, because they were helping hands also, the interns also learned how to do things around. But we did not start making money of it, because otherwise we would have become a academic institute rather than actually doing the research that we were trying. So you need to keep those end goal in sight, and without fail, you have to chase that end goal. Yes, XYZ will come, you make money out of it, and you feed this particular path where you are going on, that is different. But you cannot say that I will try to do 50 things in one. It doesn't happen, you burn out. See, it's simple.
Well, Shri, thank you so much. Wonderful. This is quite a journey, and we'll have to sit and talk about what is it that you're doing now and how are the things shaping up and what are the challenges on that. And till we get Shri back to the conversation, I hope all of you enjoyed it, and do go ahead and share it with people who are looking at being entrepreneur, or anybody. I think this has been a very insightful conversation. So I'm sure there is so much takeaway for everybody who can see it or listen to it. Thank you, and till we come back again, enjoy the ride. Thank you so much, Shri, once again.
Thank you very much. Absolutely.